Welcome to Housekeepers Half Hour. This is a reproduction of a radio show that was broadcasted by the United States Department of Agriculture in 1926. Disclaimer: do not assume contents of this production reflect current scientific knowledge, policies, or practices. This production was released March 29th, 1926.
What shall we have for dinner? One of the most popular and satisfactory dishes for these last days of Lent is baked beans. The traditional pork may, of course, be omitted at this season, and butter used instead. Later, when you try baked beans again, you may wish to include the pork, so we will tell you how to make it both ways. Whatever way they are baked, tomato sauce or tomatoes served with the beans will greatly enhance their flavor. Any sort of beans may be used: white, navy, pea, lima, soy, and other dried beans, but the Bostonians prefer pea beans for their famous dish. Beans supply protein as well as a large proportion of starch, but the protein is not so efficient a kind as that of meat, milk, and eggs. It is well, therefore, to serve a milk or egg dish at the same meal with beans. In this menu, for example, we have suggested a milk vegetable soup and Spanish cream, a dessert containing a large proportion of eggs. Most of the dried beans are good sources of vitamin B, but as vitamins A and C are also needed, these must be furnished by other foods. The soup, the raw vegetable salad, and the Spanish cream supply these vitamins. Have tomato soup if you do not use tomato sauce on your beans. Otherwise, have cream of spinach soup, which we will tell you how to make. The raw vegetable salad includes any you can get from among the following: cabbage, carrot, turnip, celery, green pepper, onion. A leaf of lettuce of any sort, or watercress or cabbage, will make a good bed for the vegetable mixture. Use French dressing. You are familiar, of course, with most of these vegetables used raw in salads, and raw cabbage finely shredded in cold slaw. If the idea of raw carrot or raw turnip is new to you, grate a little of each and mix with these other ingredients. Any preferred combination or proportion may be used. You will have a good salad if you take a half cup each of celery and pepper, a quarter cup each of carrot and turnip, and a tablespoon of minced onion for each cup of shaved cabbage. Boston brown bread goes naturally with baked beans and will be greatly relished by the family. You may make it with raisins or without as you like. It will be easiest to serve the salad with the beans, so the brown bread will be eaten with both. A recipe is to be given. Spanish cream is one of the most delicious desserts one can make. It is also delicate and easily digested and especially suitable to give to children. As it is necessarily made early in the day to give the gelatin time to set, this dessert is one that the housekeeper will welcome. Many flavors may be used in a Spanish cream, such as chocolate, caramel, butterscotch, almond, orange, vanilla, or different fruit flavors. Vanilla is almost universally liked, so we are giving that in today's recipe. Cream or fruit sauce may be served with the Spanish cream, but neither is necessary. Here is the complete menu: tomato soup or cream of spinach soup, baked beans, Boston brown bread, saw vegetable salad, Spanish cream. Today's best recipes. The Bureau of Home Economics of the United States Department of Agriculture has furnished all recipes given in connection with these menus. Directions should be carefully followed. The quantity of each ingredient should be exactly noted, and level measurements always used. Are you ready with your pencils and books now? First is cream of spinach soup. This is made from either spinach cooked for this purpose or from leftover spinach. Put a quart of milk to heat in the double boiler with a slice of onion in it. From half to 1 cup of cooked spinach will be enough to combine with this amount of milk. A quarter to a half pound of fresh spinach will yield about this quantity when cooked. Whether the spinach was prepared previously or at the time of making the soup, all liquor from it should be saved and used with it. Some of the valuable mineral constituents of the spinach are dissolved in this liquor. Wash the spinach thoroughly, chop it, and put it in a saucepan with 1 or 2 tablespoons of hot water, just enough to keep it from scorching until the leaves are wilted and the spinach liquor develops. Salt it lightly. In about 10 minutes, the spinach will be done. Mince it very fine or press it through a strainer and add it to the hot milk. Melt 2 tablespoons of butter and blend with 2 tablespoons of flour. Pour a little of the hot mixture on the flour and butter and add gradually to the soup. Season to taste, remove the slice of onion, and serve. If you prefer more onion flavor, mince the onion and cook it in the melted butter before adding the flour, then add the hot milk with the spinach. Pea beans are used for old-fashioned baked beans, but a very good, substantial dish may be made from any of the other kinds suggested. A pint of dried beans will make a large potful, and the seasonings we are giving are in proportion to this amount. Soak the beans overnight, and then cook gently until they can be pierced, but are not mushy. The skins will break easily. Put the beans in the pot with a 1/4-pound piece of well-streaked salt pork in the middle, rind side up. The rind should be scored. If you are not using meat, mix about 6 tablespoons of butter with the beans as you put them in the pot. Add the seasonings blended with a little hot water. Use a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of mustard, 2 tablespoons of molasses or sugar, and a tablespoon of minced onion, if you like it, or a small onion cut in slices. Bake the beans in a very moderate oven from 6 to 10 hours. Add a little boiling water from time to time, but never enough to bring the water beyond the top of the beans. I'll keep the lid on the bean pot until the last hour, then uncover and allow the top beans to become nicely browned. To make Boston brown bread, you will need the following ingredients: 1 cup cornmeal, 1 cup rye meal, 1 cup graham flour, 2½ teaspoons soda, 4 teaspoons baking powder, 1 teaspoon salt, 1/4 cup molasses, 2 cups sour milk, or 1 3/4 cups sweet milk. Mix and sift the dry ingredients and add the molasses and milk. Beat thoroughly and steam 3½ hours in well-buttered covered molds. 1-pound baking powder tins make very satisfactory molds. Remove the covers and bake the break long enough to dry the top. This may be made also with 1½ cups each cornmeal and rye meal and no graham flour. A cup of seeded and shredded raisins or prunes, or a cup of Zante currants may be added. To make a quart of Spanish cream, use 1 ounce of gelatin to 1 quart of milk. Put the gelatin to soak in ½ a cup of cold water. Add ½ a cup of sugar and 1/4 teaspoon of salt to the milk and put on to heat in a double boiler. Beat 5 egg yolks and gradually add the hot milk to them. Mix well, pour back into the double boiler, and cook this mixture until it thickens like a soft custard. Then add the softened gelatin to this hot mixture. Stir well, strain, and cool. Meanwhile, beat the 5 egg whites until light and fluffy. Fold them into the custard after it has begun to set, and add a teaspoon of vanilla. Pour into individual molds or a pudding dish, wet with cold water, and set away to become firm. Serve with cream or a fruit syrup. Questions women are asking. Question: in cooking a soft custard, how can I tell when it is done? Answer: a soft custard should be cooked slowly in a double boiler and stirred almost constantly. If a custard is cooked in this way, at a temperature lower than boiling, a longer time is required, but the custard is smooth and velvety. When it coats the spoon, the custard is done and should be removed at once from the heat and cooled rapidly. Setting it in a pan of cold water will stop the cooking and prevent the custard from curdling. Question: if a soft custard has been cooked so much that it curdles, can it be made smooth again? Answer: yes, an overcooked soft custard that has curdled can be made smooth by beating with a Dover egg beater. Question: is it harmful to eat fish and milk together? Answer: no. If fish is fresh or properly preserved, there is no reason why it should not be eaten with milk. Fish and milk are frequently cooked together and eaten in the form of chowders or milk gravies. creamed fish on toast or served with potatoes is a favorite dish and is often given to children. Certainly, if these two articles of diet are not harmful when cooked together, they will not be when eaten at the same meal. Superstitions about two foods being incompatible are most likely to arise when one of the two foods is particularly liable to spoil. This applies to the superstition about shellfish and milk. Or it may arise in connection with foods that are eaten on picnics or other festal occasions when people either overeat or do not observe the ordinary precautions in taking care of food materials. Question: can I make jelly from rhubarb? Answer: yes. Jelly of very attractive color and flavor can be made from rhubarb juice by adding pectin extracted from apples or lemons. The lemon pectin extract is preferable with the rhubarb. Rhubarb with bright-colored skin should if possible be chosen for jelly making, and the young tender stalks are best. To be sure that it will set, rhubarb jelly needs to be cooked a few minutes longer than most other kinds. Question: on opening the tomatoes I canned in tin last year, I find the cans are perforated around the top. What causes this? Is it because the tomatoes were too acid? Answer: the perforations in tin cans are probably due not to too acid content of the tomatoes, but to the presence of oxygen in the can, due to insufficient exhaust in the can. It can be avoided by using hot pack next time, or by heating the tomatoes thoroughly after they have been placed in the can and before the can is sealed. Question: in making quick breads and cakes, how much baking powder is needed to each cup of flour? Answer: in general, for each cup of flour, 1 to 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder are needed. Butter cakes that have a great deal of egg white may, however, need less. Popovers and sponge cakes are the exception and require no baking powder at all. Well, this concludes this broadcasting of Housekeepers Half Hour. I'm your host, Aunt Sammy. If you did indeed enjoy this broadcast, please consider listening to any of our other broadcasts. New shows are to be put out every week for new education and your listening pleasure. Until next time, remember to keep it tidy.
This production was researched and produced by BreakAway Empire LLC.